Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar by Defined. It is our third in our From Poster to Practice series. If you are just joining us, we would love for you to put your name and role and district in the chat just so we can see who's here. We're so excited that you took the time out of your busy day today to join us. We'll get started in just a minute. We want everyone to be able to get in and put their information in the chat, just your name, your role, and where you're from. That'd be great. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll get started in just a few seconds. All right, so we are here to talk about in our third episode from Poster to Practice, specifically our final portrait of a graduate traits around citizenship, communication, and collaboration. We have an exciting lineup with us here today. We have our senior PBL advisor, John Larmer, and then three wonderful participants today from Coolidge Unified. We have Melanie Edwards, the Director of Curriculum, and Yvette Dix. She is the principal at Coolidge Junior High. And Shannon, she is the science teacher at Coolidge Junior High. And we're just so thankful for you to be with us. And go ahead and feel free to ask any questions throughout in the chat. We'd be certainly welcome you to do that and answer them as best as we can throughout today's webinar. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will get started. I'm going to pass it over to you, John, so we can get started. Thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and we'll get going.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm happy to be here in our third in our webinar series on Portrait of a Graduate and how project-based learning can help build those competencies. So let me share my screen. I'll get today going. Oops, let me back up a couple of slides here. Excuse me there. Wasn't queued up. All right, our first I want to just remind everybody what a portrait of a graduate is and why we're talking about it. A lot of school districts are starting these in recent years, sort of describe the outcomes for their school program that sort of go beyond the traditional content area learning, subject area knowledge and skills. These kind of overarching kind of skills and competencies you see here on these lists. I made the point on our last webinar, the first one actually, that project-based learning is it's a high occupancy vehicle. It'll get you where you want to go faster because you can put a lot into a project-based learning teaching method. You can get a lot. Your portrait of a graduate competencies can all fit in there. Social emotional learning, applied learning, community connections. All these things can be packed into project-based learning programs. And when we talk about project-based learning, I just want to remind everyone what we're talking about. These are the 6 criteria for high-quality project-based learning from the HQPBL framework. You can read more about this at hqpbl.org. So all of these 6 aspects, these criteria, are what you would see in a good project from the student's point of view. And all of these connect to portrait of a graduate competencies. Intellectual challenge and accomplishment, that's about challenge and taking responsibility and perseverance.
Hey, John, do you mind if I stop you there? I'm not seeing that slide. I'm sorry. Is it me? I just want to make sure. I didn't want to interject, but
is everyone
I'm
seeing
just
the HQPBL framework?
No, we're just seeing the Architect Net Zero. Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was just
sorry. How did that?
Maybe my internet or.
Let me just back up for a second. I'll get.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry.
Okay, are you seeing that now? No? Okay. Let me just get right back out. And I will share again.
There we go.
Now we got it.
Yes. We've got the pictures of the portrait learner.
Just repeat that a bit for our webinar recording. We can edit that last piece out. I shared my first webinar presentation in the series, what typical portrait of our graduates are, the kind of competencies you see on these lists that many schools and districts are creating these days. I made the point that PBL is a high occupancy vehicle. It's one of the best ways to build those competencies. It'll get you where you want to go faster. You can pack a lot in there. All the different kind of competencies you see on those lists can be fit into a project. I'm talking about the HQ PBL framework, high quality PBL, what you see in a high quality project from the student's point of view. So all 6 of these criteria, you can read more about them on the hqpbl.org website. They all connect to portrait of a graduate competency. So intellectual challenge is about critical thinking, problem solving, perseverance, resilience in the face of challenges, high quality work. Authenticity, that's the real world connection that PBL has, which also involves empathy for others in the real world and recognition of problems that need to be addressed. That's connects to portrait of a graduate competencies. The public product, that public audience for student work, where you're communicating to a particular audience. It's one of those communication competencies you see in portrait of a graduate. Collaboration skills also often seen, and typical projects include a lot of that. Project management skills, vital for today's workplace, and it also has to do with leadership and taking responsibility, which you see in those portrait of a graduates. And reflection, that's involves self-awareness and social emotional learning, also often seen in portraits of a graduate. Okay, so here's defined learning's portrait of a graduate competencies. We defined these 8 areas, which are very much like what you see in a lot of schools and districts. And I wrote a 4-part blog series about how PBL builds these different competencies. You can read more about it on Defined Learning's blog site there. And there's also a white paper that put them all together. It's available for you. And Defined created these not to say adopt ours, but that Defined's materials and our approach can help address competencies like these, no matter what your district or school might have in specifically. So in our first webinar, we covered career readiness and academic knowledge and skills. The second webinar, innovation and creativity, problem solving, and critical thinking. And today we're going to talk about citizenship, communication, and collaboration, our last 3 competencies on our portrait of a graduate list. So the key points I want to make today are that every project should include some aspect of communication and collaboration, and that project-based learning can build citizenship skills in a variety of ways. So I'll be speaking to those 2 points in my presentation today. First of all, let's talk about collaboration. So our indicators for collaboration are that students contribute actively to shared goals, responsibilities, and decision-making. They build on each other's ideas and honor differences in thinking. They're willing to compromise. They can use conflict resolution skills if necessary. And they're able to provide and receive respectful, constructive feedback. Here's an example of a defined learning project that involves collaboration. This is a middle and high school algebra project where students are in the role of all of Defined's projects involve putting students in a real world career role. In this case, they're an architect and they're looking at net zero energy school buildings, and they're developing a cost savings report and making a presentation about this, using their math skills to complete the products in this task. So, and they're working in a team to do this. It takes a lot. It takes, a team of maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 at the most students to accomplish this project efficiently. So in a project like that, you're seeing these kind of things happening. And I want to make these points about high quality PBL and collaboration. It should usually mean working in a team. I think it's a vital 21st century workplace skill. So most projects, I believe, should be done in teams of 2 or ideally more like 3 and 4 at the most, because that's how often real world projects unfold in the workplace. But even if you have individually done projects, they could involve collaboration aspects, like meeting with peers to compare ideas. Maybe they're sharing the same topic. You can check each other's progress, how you're overcoming roadblocks. Giving and receiving feedback is a collaboration skill. So even in individual projects, collaboration can be built. And when students work in teams, they're using those vital project management skills. to assign responsibility and track their progress and who's doing what. Another vital 21st century workplace skill. And they're following norms for discussions and generating ideas and making decisions, resolving conflicts. That norm setting is vital for collaboration to work in a PBL classroom. And finally, teamwork. It reflects the classroom culture's emphasis on respect and everyone's contributions. It's not a competitive atmosphere, it's an atmosphere of mutual support. So that's how collaboration should look in high quality PBL. Let's talk about communication, where students are accurately conveying and receiving information. We put cultural competence into this competency, where students understand what it means to communicate across different cultures or among different kinds of people you might meet in the workplace or in your school. You understand your audience, and that's aligned with a lot of speaking and listening standards. You communicate appropriately for that audience. And to use various modes of communication to make your thinking visible. That's a key point, that a lot of project-based learning involves reflecting on what you're learning and how you're learning, and you're explaining your thinking, how you develop this solution to a problem or this answer to a driving question. And that can be done through presentation, discussion, visual modes of communication, writing, lots of different ways. Here's an example from Define's library this is in the elementary art and literature course, where students are looking at a famous African-American artist, Faith Ringgold, who developed these wonderful quilts. And students create a Tar Beach paper quilt after reading a story called Tar Beach to sort of illustrate that story and communicate their understanding of the story and the themes in it. They also create a community quilt to give to someone in their community, expressing their hopes and desires for that person's success. So there's an example of communicating through art in a project. And so in high quality PBL, every project really includes some kind of communication, because it involves reading, writing, speaking, presenting, all those, perhaps just one or two, perhaps, or maybe all of those in some cases, or creating media to express themselves. And a lot of literacy standards these days, from Common Core to state standards, talk about speaking and listening, which is really key to project-based learning, that public audience, the presentations. The presentations include, what kind of audience do you have? What's the right speaking style? What terms do I use? What ideas and arguments will be most effective for this particular audience? And making your thinking explicit should be part of what, at the end of a presentation, oftentimes you see students being asked questions about, well, how'd you think of that problem? Or how'd you overcome that challenge? Or why did you answer the driving question this way? And so that reflection process and presentation process involves explaining your thinking. Citizenship. Okay, lots of projects have opportunities to build citizenship competencies. And this we thought it has to do with learning about diverse cultures and traditions. So in a multicultural society like ours, it's important for students to sort of get out into the real world and see diverse cultures. They may have them in their school, or maybe in their community, or maybe in the wider world. They're going to encounter diverse audiences and diverse kinds of people they're going to be talking to or presenting to. They become more aware of and act on local and national global issues. Project-based learning often makes students really, tackle some kind of real world issue, or at least simulate an issue which they can connect to real world problems and issues. Civil dialogue, important in our country these days, to learn how to talk together, exchange ideas respectfully, really understand where other people are coming from and their perspectives. And finally, just to understand how what you do in school connects to the wider world, in the case of careers, in the case of solving problems and addressing issues. Here's a civics and government performance task project for grades 8 through 12. I actually helped develop this one, where students are in the role of a lobbyist, sort of proposing a law that should be developed at the state level. And they're actually writing a persuasive argument for a new law, and if possible, making a presentation or connecting with a state legislator. So a lot of citizenship skills are obviously built in that kind of a project. And I mentioned this already, but I just want to reiterate it, that building citizenship skills is not just going out and solving a community problem. It may just be learning how to communicate within their classroom, in their teams, how to listen respectfully, think about others' ideas, see other points of view, and use reason and evidence in their arguments. And even if your project isn't about, lobbying for a new law, at least you can build those skills in project-based learning. Many projects actually do make a real world impact. And it can open up students' eyes sometimes, open up their minds to topics and issues that are beyond their little world in their classroom, or people who are not from their culture or their local community. That exposure into careers, perhaps, which defines kind of projects. It's a great example of building citizenship skills. And finally, it gives students that sense of agency. Like, I can do this. I'm a fourth grader, but I can still make a difference in the world. And I can take responsibility for solving some of the world's problems. What a great sense to build in students. Okay, so that's about all I'm going to say. I want to turn it over to our colleagues from Coolidge, Arizona, and that's where they are, between Phoenix and Tucson. And looks like a nice spot there in the high desert of Arizona. So I'll turn it over to Melanie Edwards. So I'll stop sharing and we'll hear
Thank
from
you,
you.
John. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and get you started to hear from our amazing Coolidge team. There we go. Melanie, whenever you're ready. Oh, you're still on mute, Melanie. That's okay. That happens.
Told myself I wasn't going to do that. Thank you, John. I appreciate all of your talking points were on my talking points to make about why I love defined learning. But I thought I would start by introducing myself. I'm Melanie Edwards from Coolidge Unified School District. I am the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment for the district. We are, as John said, Coolidge is a small town between Phoenix and Tucson. It is beautiful high desert. We have a lovely population that care about their schools and care about their students and care about their community. So it's a pleasure to serve this community. We are growing incrementally. We used to be known as a very rural district. We are in a rural Pinal County. But I will tell you that we are up to 17,500 residents in Coolidge and growing, as Yvette will attest to in a moment with our student enrollment counts continue to rise. We've become almost a rural or becoming a bedroom community to the larger communities outside of us. And so people are building houses and moving here, and we continue to enroll our students, which is very exciting for us. Coolidge Unified District is about 85 years old. We serve pre-K through 12th grade students. We have just under 3,000 students. We have one preschool, 2 elementary schools, a junior high / middle school, which Dr. Dix will be talking to you about shortly. We have 1 comprehensive high school, an alternative school, and 1 virtual school. We are probably around 50% Hispanic, 22% Caucasian, and 15% Black students. And then we have a 12% population of American Indian students in our district. John spoke about defined learning, specifically talked about Portrait of a Graduate and talked about communication, collaboration, and citizenship. And as I looked at our vision and our mission and our district purpose, all 3 of those things are combined in each of those areas. They are the purpose for what we do, and promoting communication and collaboration, thinking, curiosity is one of the things that we strive to have our students lead with curiosity instead of fear of failure or fear of being wrong. And so our district vision is to engage, challenge, and inspire every student every day. When Martha and I spoke first about defined learning and defined careers, I was so excited because to engage and challenge and inspire also embodies project-based learning, where our students aren't just tied to a book. We are a one-to-one school district, so they're not necessarily just sitting in front of a screen all the time. And if they are learning on that screen, we want some hands-on, some collaboration with their peers, not just verbally, physically, but mentally. We want them really embodying all of the things that come with, we believe, project-based learning. And so challenging those students. We've got students at diverse levels. You know, we have, like any other public school district, we have low levels, we have mid levels, we have off the chart brilliant kids, we have kids who are bored, kids who are, you know, excited to be in school. Some kids play school well. Our desire was to engage and challenge all of them and to inspire them to be the best at whatever they choose to do. And so the idea of intellectually challenging them and having them feel productive struggle kind of plays into the idea of project management, having our students work together. Our mission embodies collaboration and communication. Coolidge Unified School District is committed to providing academic and social learning in a safe and positive environment for all students. We don't want our students to be left behind because they're not interested in what's being taught in the class at that day and that time. We want them to have natural curiosity and be exposed to things that might make them wonder, gosh, maybe that's for me. That's something I might be interested in. We want them to be problem solvers, project managers and leaders. We want them to be creative and self-reflective. Our district purpose fits the citizenship characteristic. This is a student-centered and community-connected school district. We have a very involved community. They value our students coming back here and working in their home community. We have many teachers who graduated from Coolidge 20, 30, 40 years ago, who are here and have not left, who have come back to the community to give back to the community. So we want our students to have that opportunity as well, or go out and advance themselves in other parts of the world, but to know the exposure of what is out there outside of Coolidge. We don't want them to be confined by city limits because of fear. We want those limits to be open for those students, to be limitless possibilities by what they're exposed to and what we help them investigate in their educational career with us. So we have a very robust CTE program in our high school. Very excited. We also have access to Central Arizona Valley Institute of Technology, which is an extremely renowned career and technical program or facility. Our kids have the availability and opportunity to attend CAVIT, to pursue other opportunities, and it could be careers that might define them. Cosmetology, I'm thinking about robotics, fire science. I mean, I can't name them all. There are 16 different careers and learning pathways, and we believe that's the best way for our students to learn, is to have that kind of exposure. So again, when I spoke with Martha about defined learning, I almost couldn't I couldn't sit in my seat. And then when I contacted Dr. Dix and said, okay, I want us to start with our middle school students, because it follows a natural pathway to give them some exposure to different projects, different careers as 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so that now they can start to define maybe the pathway that they have more interest in. And really, it's about building their confidence that they have the skills and the interest to do whatever they want, be it college or career. We want them prepared and ready to choose, to make that choice. And I think that's one of the things that we don't often remember in education, is that we need our students to be prepared to make those healthy, confident, smart choices for themselves.
About our webinar next week, where we are continuing the conversation about building graduate profile competencies. Next week we'll be with San Ramon Valley, the superintendent, John Malloy. So we hope that you can join us next week as well. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. We'd love to support your districts as well. And here's my information. And we'd just love to reach out if there's anyone that has any questions. Certainly certainly can answer them now. I'll take a look here, stop sharing. I think we probably all set, unless John, did you have anything?
Oh, I was just interested in asking this, the school, do you use Define mainly in STEM or other subject areas too?
So we had the training available predominantly for our core content teachers. Our ELA, science, social studies, and math, and then we also for our self-contained special education teachers. And they all went through the training, but we also made it available to any other teacher on campus that wanted to attend the training and to have that exposure. Right now, we're seeing more solid use of it in our core content classes. The way we have it set up right now, we actually have our math and ELA, and those classes actually have class every single day of the week. And our science, social studies, and electives are on the A day, B day schedule. So the ELA and math teachers, like 90 minutes every single day was very daunting to them. So we're having this is much more of a resource for them. But teachers like Shannon, who is a science teacher for us, like just grabbed the content and ran with it. So we actually had Martha come out and do a site visit with us on October 30th, and we walked into many different classrooms. I believe we went into science, so we saw Shannon's classroom. We also went into a 6th grade ELA class, I believe an 8th grade social studies class. What else did we see that day? Do you remember, Melanie or Martha? You're muted.
I think we were in a math class as well. I think we went into a math class that day as well. The idea is that we wanted all of our teachers to be able to use this. And I will say, one of the complaints, being a teacher for 30 years, it was hard to create all the time, to create project-based learning. That's difficult. We love it. We love the concept, but then to actually sit down and put one that fits the structure of what you're teaching in your class, the standards, maybe the unit that you're studying, that's difficult. And that was very appealing. A lot of our middle school teachers are busy just trying to make sure everyone is where they need to be, right? And everybody's working. And so what did we do? We expanded the time. Let's give you another, 45 minutes in class with those kids. And we wanted to make sure that they had quality resources to help engage those students at a level that we expect them to be engaged at. And so it's a slow roll, but I think we are growing exponentially with the use of defined learning. And we're just excited to see how this affects our students. I think one of the students, Shannon, in your class said, I didn't know that this was even a career, right? I had no idea you could do this. And so that was another one of those aha moments of eye-opening and exposing our students to other concepts that they may never, or careers that they wouldn't have even imagined.
That's great.
I agree. And John, to answer your question about students working in teams on projects, I do both. So they sit in tables in my classroom. So they collaborate vocally with each other, but then when it comes to their lab report, they do that themselves. So they gather the data their own, but they talk about it as a team as to how they got those numbers, or why the data showed it that way, or if one person can understand the concept faster than the other table mates, they'll kind of explain. So it's nice to have that done in both ways, because you get the student's perspective at their cognitive level, and then there's also collaboration at work. So I think it enables a more cohesive teamwork kind of centered classroom. So to answer that question, yeah.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Well, we just thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the Coolidge team and to our participants for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.